The sun was shining bright that Friday morning as Andrew Taylor stood in front of his bedroom mirror, trading his usual tailored suit for a pair of worn jeans and a simple blue button-down shirt. He looked different, more like an everyday guy than the powerful CEO of Horizon Technologies, a company worth billions that he had built from the ground up over 20 years. Andrew had always done things his own way. While other executives sent teams to gather information, he believed in seeing things with his own eyes. "You can't fix what you don't fully understand," he often told his team. This philosophy had helped him turn Horizon into one of the top companies in the country. 3 days earlier, during a board meeting, Andrew had been troubled by something. His company had recently invested a large sum in Luxury Motors, a chain of high-end car dealerships with locations across the country. The investment looked good on paper, but there was a problem. Over the past few months, several people had written to complain about how they were treated at these dealerships. The letters came from black customers and other minorities who felt they were ignored, disrespected, or steered toward cheaper cars regardless of their budget. Andrew read each complaint carefully. One man wrote that he had waited nearly an hour before anyone would speak to him, while white customers who came in after him got immediate attention. A woman described how salespeople assumed she couldn't afford the cars she was interested in, despite her successful career. These stories hit close to home for Andrew. Even after all his success, he still sometimes felt judged by his skin color before anything else. "These are our customers too," he told his assistant Lee as he handed back the folder of complaints. "And Luxury Motors now represents our company. We need to know what's really happening there." Lee suggested hiring a professional team to investigate, but Andrew shook his head. "Sometimes you need to see things yourself to really understand the problem." That night, Andrew couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about those letters. He remembered his own father, how hard he had worked his whole life, and how proud he had been the day he finally went to buy a new car, only to be treated like he didn't belong there. Andrew had promised himself back then that when he had the power to change things like that, he would. Now he had that power. The next morning, Andrew called Lee with his plan. "I'm going undercover to Luxury Motors. No fancy clothes, no driver, no security, just me as a regular customer." Lee was worried. "Sir, is that really necessary? What if someone recognizes you?" Andrew laughed. "Without the suit and the company car, trust me, they won't be looking for me there." He selected the flagship store for his visit, their biggest location downtown. It was known for having the most expensive cars and the highest sales numbers. If there was a problem in the company culture, it would show there. That Saturday morning, as Andrew drove his old personal car to the dealership, he felt both nervous and determined. He left his expensive watch at home and made sure there was nothing that would give away his true identity. He even left his premium credit cards behind, keeping only his driver's license and a regular bank card. "Time to see how Luxury Motors really treats its customers," he thought as he pulled into the parking lot, watching people in expensive clothes walk in and out of the gleaming glass building. He took a deep breath and stepped out of his car, just another black man interested in buying a luxury vehicle on a sunny Saturday morning. Little did the salespeople inside know that this casual-looking customer actually owned a controlling stake in their company, and he was about to see firsthand exactly how they did business. Andrew pushed open the heavy glass door of Luxury Motors and stepped into a world of gleaming metal and polished marble. The showroom smelled like new leather and expensive cologne. Soft jazz music played in the background as customers wandered between rows of shiny vehicles that cost more than what many people make in years. For a moment, Andrew just stood there, taking it all in. 3 salespeople in matching blue blazers stood near the front desk, laughing about something. They glanced at him, then went back to their conversation. Andrew noticed how quickly they had sized him up. Casual clothes, no designer labels, and decided he wasn't worth their time. A white couple walked in behind him. The woman wore diamond earrings, and the man had on an expensive-looking watch. Within seconds, one of the salespeople broke away from the group with a wide smile. "Welcome to Luxury Motors. How can I help you folks today?" he said warmly, completely ignoring Andrew, who had arrived before them. Andrew moved deeper into the showroom, running his fingers along the hood of a silver sports car. In reality, he owned 2 vehicles from this very brand already, but today he was just another customer, one being completely overlooked. He stopped beside a black sedan with a price tag that would make most people's eyes water. It was exactly the type of car he'd been thinking about adding to his collection. The lines were perfect, the interior like something from a spaceship. Andrew bent down to look inside, genuinely impressed by the craftsmanship. 15 minutes passed. Andrew had walked around nearly every car in the main showroom. Not once had anyone approached him or asked if he needed help. Meanwhile, he'd watched 3 other customers, all white, get immediate attention, handshakes, and offers of coffee or water. Finally, Andrew decided to approach the sales desk himself. The 3 salespeople were still there, one typing on a computer, the others chatting. The oldest of them, a man with graying hair at his temples and a name tag that read Thomas Bennett, sales manager, looked up as Andrew approached. "Excuse me," Andrew said politely. "I'm interested in the black sedan over there. Could I get some information about it?" Thomas looked at Andrew, then at his jeans and simple shirt, then back at his face. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "We're actually pretty busy with serious customers right now," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the showroom where the other salespeople were helping people in business attire. "You might want to wait outside. We'll get to you when we can." The words hung in the air between them. Andrew felt a familiar tightness in his chest, that same feeling he'd experienced many times before in his life when being judged solely by his appearance. "I'm sorry," Andrew said, keeping his voice level despite the anger building inside him. "Did you just tell me to wait outside?" Thomas's expression hardened slightly. "Look, buddy, these vehicles start at 6 figures. If you're just here to look around, that's fine, but my team needs to focus on customers who are ready to buy today." Andrew almost reached for his wallet to pull out his business card, the one that would instantly change how this man was speaking to him. But he stopped himself. That wasn't why he was here. He needed to see how this played out for an ordinary customer. "I understand," Andrew said instead, "but I am interested in purchasing. Today, actually." Thomas looked doubtful but nodded toward a row of chairs against the wall. "You can wait there. Someone will be with you when they're free." Andrew took a seat in the waiting area, watching as customers who came in after him received handshakes, smiles, and immediate attention. A woman in designer clothes was offered a cappuccino. A man in golf attire was shown directly to the premium models. And there sat Andrew, CEO of Horizon Technologies, worth more than everyone else in the building combined, waiting to be acknowledged. He pulled out his phone and quietly sent a text to Lee. "You won't believe what's happening. Keep the camera ready." From his seat, Andrew could see every interaction in the showroom. And with each passing minute, his determination grew stronger. This wasn't just about him anymore. Something needed to change here, and he was exactly the person who could change it. Andrew sat patiently in the waiting area, his eyes taking in everything happening around him. 20 minutes passed, then 30. A young couple who had walked in a full hour after him was already test driving a car. The woman who had been offered cappuccino was now signing papers with a smiling salesperson. Andrew checked his watch. Nearly 45 minutes had gone by. He had built a multi-billion-dollar company by being patient and strategic, but this was testing even his calm demeanor. Finally, a younger salesperson with a name tag reading David approached him. "Someone said you were interested in one of our vehicles," David asked, his tone making it clear that he wasn't expecting much from this conversation. Andrew stood up and offered his hand. "Yes, I'm interested in the black sedan, the GT9 model." David barely shook his hand before dropping it. "That's one of our premium models. Starts at $110,000. He emphasized the price, watching Andrew's face for any reaction. "I know," Andrew nodded. "I like the specs. 6-cylinder engine, all-wheel drive, and that new safety package looks impressive." David seemed slightly surprised that Andrew knew about the car. "Well, we have some other models that might be more accessible. Let me show you the C-Series over here." He began walking toward a section with less expensive vehicles. "Actually," Andrew said firmly, "stay in place. I'm interested in the GT9. That's the one I'd like to discuss." David turned back with a tight smile. "Look, I'm just trying to help you find something that might be more in your price range. The financing on these high-end models can be difficult for some people." His emphasis on some people made his meaning unmistakably clear. I understand, Andrew replied calmly. But I'm specifically interested in the GT9, and I'd like to test drive it today. David laughed, a short, dismissive sound. We usually require proof of income first for vehicles in that price range. Bank statements, pay stubs, to make sure we're not wasting anyone's time. Andrew glanced around the showroom. A man in an expensive suit was being handed keys to test drive a car that cost $30,000 more than the one Andrew was asking about. No paperwork had been requested. Is that your policy for all customers? Andrew asked. David shifted uncomfortably. Well, we have to use our judgment. It helps us provide better service. I see, Andrew said. Well, I'd be happy to discuss financing options after the test drive. Look, David said, lowering his voice, between you and me, why don't we start with something more reasonable? The bank approval process for these luxury models is pretty strict. Andrew noticed the subtle implication that he wouldn't qualify for financing. Meanwhile, across the showroom, Thomas Bennett was laughing with a customer who had just arrived, already offering him a test drive in their most expensive sports car. How about this? Andrew suggested, maintaining his composure. Let's start with you telling me about the features of the GT9, and then we can discuss a test drive. David sighed, clearly thinking this was a waste of time, but walked with Andrew to the black sedan. His explanation of the car's features was rushed and basic, nothing like the detailed presentations Andrew had observed being given to other customers. When Andrew asked specific questions about the engine performance and technology package, David seemed annoyed. Look, this is our high-performance model. It's got all the bells and whistles. But honestly, the monthly payments would be— He paused, looking Andrew over again, quite substantial. Andrew nodded thoughtfully. And if I wanted to pay cash? David couldn't hide his disbelief. He actually laughed again. The full amount? Today? That would be over $110,000. I understand, Andrew said quietly. So can I test drive it now? I need to check with my manager, David replied, clearly skeptical. And we'd still need to see some financial documentation first. Maybe a credit check. It's just policy for, certain situations. Andrew took a deep breath. He'd seen enough. Actually, before we do that, could you tell your manager I'd like to speak with him? I have a few questions about how things work here. David looked relieved to pass him off. Sure thing. Wait here. As David walked away, Andrew sent another text to Lee. It's worse than we thought. Get ready. Andrew stood by the black sedan, running his hand along its sleek hood while he waited. He could see David talking to Thomas Bennett at the front desk. Thomas kept glancing over at him with obvious annoyance. This wasn't just poor customer service, this was something much worse, and Andrew had experienced enough. Just then, the glass doors of the dealership swung open. Lee walked in, dressed in a crisp suit, carrying a leather portfolio with the Horizon Technologies logo clearly visible. As planned, Lee spotted Andrew and walked directly toward him with purpose. Mr. Taylor. Lee called out loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. I apologize for the interruption, sir. There are some urgent documents requiring your signature for the West Coast acquisition. Heads turned throughout the showroom. David and Thomas froze mid-conversation, watching the scene unfold. Lee handed Andrew the portfolio. The board is waiting on your approval to move forward. Also, Mrs. Chen from the investment team called about the quarterly projections. She said the stock is up another 2 points after your interview with Business Insider last week. Andrew nodded calmly, taking the portfolio. Thank you, Lee. He opened it to find exactly what he expected, printouts of the complaints from minority customers, along with documentation of Horizon's recent investment in Luxury Motors' parent company. By now, the atmosphere in the dealership had completely changed. A woman at a nearby desk was frantically typing on her computer. Andrew could practically see the moment she found his picture online. Her eyes widened as she looked from her screen to him and back again. David hurried over, his entire demeanor transformed. Sir, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting. Is there anything I can get you? Coffee? Water? None, thank you, Andrew replied. Thomas Bennett was right behind him, hand extended, with a completely different smile than he had shown earlier. Mr. Taylor, I had no idea. There must have been some miscommunication. I'm Thomas Bennett, the sales manager. Welcome to Luxury Motors. Andrew looked at the offered hand but didn't take it. Yes, we've met. You told me to wait outside because you were helping serious customers. I've been waiting for nearly an hour while watching people who came in after me receive immediate service. Thomas's face flushed red. Sir, that was clearly a misunderstanding. If I had known who you were. That's exactly the problem, Andrew cut him off. The way you treat people shouldn't depend on who they are or what they're wearing. Every customer deserves respect. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Other salespeople, curious customers, even a mechanic who had wandered in from the service area. Perhaps we can discuss this in my office, Thomas suggested nervously, eyeing the growing audience. I think right here is fine, Andrew replied. His voice wasn't raised, but it carried clear authority that made everyone listen. My name is Andrew Taylor. I'm the CEO of Horizon Technologies. 3 weeks ago, my company became a major stakeholder in Luxury Motors' parent company. A look of pure panic crossed Thomas's face as the implications sank in. One of the other salespeople actually took a step backward. I came here today as a regular customer to experience your service firsthand, Andrew continued. I did this because we received multiple complaints about how this dealership treats minority customers. Based on what I've seen today, those complaints were entirely justified. Thomas began stammering excuses. Mr. Taylor, please understand, we treat all our customers with respect. This was just an unfortunate. I waited for 45 minutes before anyone would speak to me, Andrew said calmly. I was told to wait outside. I was steered toward cheaper cars despite expressing interest in your premium models. I was told I would need proof of income and a credit check, while watching white customers get keys to test drive without any such requirements. The silence in the showroom was complete now. Even customers had stopped to listen. The worst part, Andrew added, looking Thomas directly in the eyes, is that you don't even realize what you're doing. You've convinced yourselves these aren't biased decisions. Lee stepped forward, opening a laptop. Mr. Taylor, should I show them what we've documented? Andrew nodded. Yes, I think it's time they saw exactly what's been happening here. The showroom had gone completely silent. Lee placed the laptop on the hood of the black sedan and turned it so everyone could see the screen. Andrew stood tall, his casual clothes now seeming like a deliberate choice rather than a sign he couldn't afford the cars around him. Let me introduce myself properly, Andrew said, his voice steady. I'm Andrew Taylor, CEO of Horizon Technologies. 3 weeks ago, our company acquired a controlling interest in your parent company, making me effectively one of your bosses. He gestured toward the laptop. We've been investigating customer complaints across all your locations. Thomas Bennett's face had gone from red to pale. Mr. Taylor, I assure you, if there have been any issues with customer service, we can address them immediately. Today was simply an unusual. It wasn't unusual at all, Andrew cut him off. That's the problem. Lee pressed a button on the laptop and video began to play. The footage showed a split screen. On one side, a white customer entering the dealership and being greeted immediately. On the other side, a black customer entering and being ignored for nearly 10 minutes. This isn't just from today, Andrew explained to the growing crowd. We've had people visiting your dealerships for weeks, documenting everything. Different people, different times of day, different locations, same results. More footage played. Salespeople steering non-white customers to less expensive models without discussing their budgets, while white customers were shown premium vehicles first. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to deny. We have over 40 hours of footage from 12 different Luxury Motors locations, Andrew continued, and we found the same pattern at 8 of them, including this flagship store. David, the salesperson who had tried to steer Andrew toward cheaper cars, looked at the floor, unable to meet anyone's eyes. A female employee near the back of the group whispered something to her colleague, who nodded in agreement. Thomas tried again. Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry if you felt you received poor service today. We value all our customers equally, and... Stop, Andrew said firmly. This isn't about feelings. This is about facts. The facts show that your staff consistently treats white customers better than non-white customers. The facts show that your employees make assumptions about who can afford these cars based solely on skin color. The facts show that you've been running a business that discriminates against people who look like me." A customer who had been watching the scene unfold stepped forward. He was an older black man who had been sitting in the waiting area when Andrew arrived. "I've been waiting for over an hour or two," he said. "I came to look at the new sports coupe. I'm a retired surgeon and I was planning to pay cash today, but no one would even talk to me." Another customer, a young Asian woman, spoke up from near the financing desk. "They told me I'd need my husband to co-sign for the loan. I'm a banking executive. I make more than my husband does." Thomas looked like he might be sick. "Mr. Taylor, these are isolated incidents." "No, they're not," Andrew replied calmly. "They're part of a pattern that ends today." He turned to address the entire staff. "I believe in second chances. I believe people can learn and grow. But I also believe in consequences. What I've seen today has convinced me that we need major changes at Luxury Motors." Andrew pointed to the front door where two people in business attire had just entered. "These are Horizon's head of human resources and our chief diversity officer. Starting tomorrow, they'll be implementing new training programs and policies across all Luxury Motors locations." He turned back to Thomas. "As for you and your team here, you have a choice to make. Those who are willing to acknowledge these problems and work to fix them might have a future with this company. Those who can't or won't." He let the sentence hang in the air. Thomas swallowed hard. "Mr. Taylor, I assure you I had no idea." "That's the problem," Andrew said. "You should have known. It's your job to know how your staff treats customers. It's your job to make sure everyone who walks through that door is treated with respect." Andrew looked around at the stunned faces of the salespeople. "This isn't just about doing the right thing morally. It's also about business. Every person you've disrespected, every customer you've lost because of your biases, that's money walking out the door. That's damage to our brand. And as the new majority stakeholder, I won't allow it to continue." He turned to Lee. "Show them the numbers." Lee tapped a few keys on the laptop, and a new screen appeared showing a detailed spreadsheet. The numbers told a powerful story that no one in the room could ignore. "These are the statistics from our investigation," Andrew explained, pointing to the screen. "Average wait time for white customers at this location, 4 minutes. Average wait time for black customers, 23 minutes. For Asian customers, 17 minutes. For Hispanic customers, 20 minutes. Thomas Bennett opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again when he saw the numbers. "We tracked every interaction in 12 different dealerships," Andrew continued. "In 8 locations, including this one, the pattern was consistent. Non-white customers waited longer for service, were shown fewer vehicle options, and were quoted higher interest rates than white customers with identical financial profiles." A hush fell over the showroom as the evidence mounted. "But we didn't stop there," Andrew said. "We brought in 30 test customers, 5 of each major racial background, all with the exact same financial profile. Good credit, stable employment, more than enough income to afford any car in the showroom." Lee clicked to the next slide, which showed photographs of these test customers alongside their experiences. "Our white test customers were offered test drives immediately 90% of the time," Andrew explained. "They were shown an average of 6 different vehicles and offered an average interest rate of 4.2%. Our black test customers were offered test drives only 20% of the time, shown an average of 2 vehicles, usually the less expensive models, and quoted an average interest rate of 7.8%. The female employee who had whispered earlier raised her hand nervously. "May I say something, Mr. Taylor?" Andrew nodded. "Please do." "I've noticed some of this happening," she admitted. "I tried to bring it up in a staff meeting once, but I was told I was being too sensitive. I didn't know what else to do." "Thank you for your honesty," Andrew said. "What's your name?" "Nicole," she replied. "Nicole, we need more people like you who are willing to speak up," Andrew said. "This kind of change requires brave voices willing to point out problems even when it's uncomfortable." Thomas Bennett had recovered enough to try defending himself again. "Mr. Taylor, I can assure you that we never instructed our staff to treat customers differently based on race. If this has been happening, it wasn't company policy." Andrew turned to him. "Let me ask you something, Mr. Bennett. How many times have you reviewed your security footage to observe how your staff interacts with different customers? Thomas hesitated. Well, we mainly use the cameras for security purposes. How often do you track wait times by customer demographics? We don't specifically track that. How many diversity training sessions has your staff attended in the past year? Thomas looked down. We follow the corporate training schedule. Ando nodded. So you've never looked for the problem, never measured it, and never trained your people to avoid it. Yet you're certain it's not happening. One of the other salespeople, an older man with silver hair, stepped forward. Sir, I've been selling cars for 30 years. I treat everyone the same. I believe you think that's true, Andrew replied. But our data shows otherwise. In fact, you're the one who told our Hispanic test customer last Tuesday that he should start with something more basic when he asked about the luxury SUV. He's actually the CFO of a tech company. The man's face reddened. I don't remember that. That's part of the problem, Andrew said. These biases often operate without us even being aware of them, but that doesn't make their impact any less real. Lee clicked to yet another screen showing revenue projections. We also looked at the financial impact of these practices, Andrew explained. Based on our estimates, this dealership alone is losing approximately $2.4 million in sales annually by driving away qualified non-white customers. A gasp went through the room. That doesn't even include the damage to your reputation, Andrew continued. In the age of social media, one bad customer experience can reach thousands of potential buyers. He looked around the room, making eye contact with each staff member. This isn't just about doing what's right morally, though that should be enough. It's also about smart business. Every customer who walks through that door represents potential revenue. Every person you prejudge and dismiss is money walking out the door. Andrew walked over to the black sedan he'd been interested in earlier. Today, you nearly lost a $110,000 sale because you judged me by my appearance. How many other sales have you lost for the same reason? The question hung in the air. No one had an answer. The good news, Andrew continued, his tone softening slightly, is that we can fix this. Starting tomorrow, we're implementing comprehensive changes across all Luxury Motors locations. He nodded to the Horizon executives who had entered earlier. My team will work with each dealership to institute new training programs, new customer service protocols, and new metrics to track our progress. We'll be monitoring every location closely to ensure these changes stick. Andrew turned back to Thomas Bennett. As for immediate consequences, that's our next discussion, and it's one I'd like to have in your office. The sales manager nodded numbly, gesturing toward a glass door at the back of the showroom. Andrew looked at Lee. Bring the full documentation. By Monday morning, the story had spread throughout every Luxury Motors dealership across the country. Staff members arrived to work with uncertainty hanging in the air. At the flagship store, many employees stood in small groups in the parking lot, afraid to go inside, unsure if they still had jobs. When the doors opened at 8 a.m., two unfamiliar faces greeted them, a man and woman in professional attire with Horizon Technologies badges. They directed everyone to the conference room, where Andrew Taylor was waiting, his expression serious but not angry. Good morning, Andrew began once everyone was seated. I want to start by thanking those of you who came today. That shows character and a willingness to face difficult conversations. He paced slowly across the front of the room. Over the weekend, our team reviewed all the evidence we've gathered. We examined every interaction caught on camera, reviewed customer complaints, and identified patterns of behavior at this location and others. Thomas Bennett was noticeably absent, so were several other salespeople from Saturday. Some decisions have already been made, Andrew continued. Effective immediately, Thomas Bennett is no longer with the company. Neither are 7 other employees from this location who displayed the most serious and consistent patterns of discriminatory behavior. A murmur went through the room. One salesperson raised his hand. What about David? He was helping you on Saturday. Andrew nodded. David has been placed on a 30-day probation. During that time, he'll receive intensive training on unconscious bias. If he completes the training successfully and commits to our new standards, he'll have the opportunity to continue with Luxury Motors. Nicole, the woman who had spoken up on Saturday, looked relieved. Andrew acknowledged her with a small nod. Now for the bigger picture, Andrew continued. This isn't just happening at your location. By the end of today, 17 employees across 9 different luxury motors dealerships will be terminated. Each case represents a clear pattern of discrimination that cannot be tolerated. The room was completely silent now. But firing people isn't the solution by itself, Andrew said, his tone softening. We need to create a new culture at Luxury Motors, one based on respect, fairness, and excellent service for everyone who walks through those doors. He gestured to the 2 Horizon representatives. This is Patel and Wong from our corporate team. Starting today, they'll be implementing a comprehensive overhaul of how this dealership operates. Patel stepped forward. The changes will include mandatory training for all staff on recognizing and addressing unconscious bias. We'll also be instituting new customer service protocols where every customer is greeted within 2 minutes of entering the showroom, regardless of appearance. One continued, additionally, we're changing how salespeople are compensated. Rather than just commission on sales, 30% of your compensation will now be tied to customer satisfaction scores. And we'll be actively seeking feedback from all customers, especially those from minority backgrounds. Andrew took over again. We're also establishing an independent oversight committee that will conduct regular mystery shopping evaluations. Twice a month, people of different backgrounds will visit each dealership and report on their experiences. A hand went up. So we're going to be secretly tested. Yes, Andrew said simply. Because that's the only way to know if real change is happening. When people know they're being watched, they behave differently. We need to make sure these changes become part of who we are, not just what we do when the boss is around. Another employee asked, what happens if we fail these tests? The first failure will trigger additional training, Andrew explained. A second failure will result in probation. A third will lead to termination. We're serious about this change. Despite the serious tone, Andrew smiled for the first time that morning. But this isn't just about avoiding negative consequences. There are positive opportunities here too. Dealerships that excel in these evaluations will receive bonuses. Individuals who consistently provide exceptional service to all customers will be recognized and rewarded. He walked to the window and looked out at the cars gleaming in the morning sun. 1 year from today, I want Luxury Motors to be known as the most welcoming, most professional, most respectful car buying experience in the country. I want people to choose us not just for our vehicles, but for how we treat them. Andrew turned back to face the room. Some of you might be thinking this is just talk, that things will go back to normal in a few weeks. Let me be clear, this is permanent. This is the new normal. He pointed to a new camera being installed in the corner of the showroom. Every interaction will be reviewed. Every customer complaint will reach my desk. Every success will be celebrated. Andrew's voice grew more passionate. This isn't just about doing what's right, though that matters deeply. It's also about building a better business. When we welcome every customer with respect, when we judge people by their interests and needs rather than their appearance, we all win. 6 months later, sales at the flagship Luxury Motors had increased by 27%. Customer satisfaction scores had hit all-time highs, and most importantly, the customer base had diversified dramatically, with sales to minority customers up by 34%. The story of the Undercover CEO became a case study taught in business schools across the country. But for Andrew Taylor, the real success wasn't in the headlines or the improved numbers, it was in creating a place where everyone was treated with the dignity they deserved from the moment they walked through the door.